The prophet Isaiah was quite good at reminding prideful human beings of their place in the pecking order of eternity. On the other hand, the king of Babylon was one of the most prideful people in the history of mankind. His kingdom was huge, powerful, and influential, and he was treated as much more than a king. In fact, his people began to treat him as if he were a deity, a god. And over time, the king of Babylon began to think of himself as if he were God. But the prophet Isaiah reminded him of his weaknesses. He made it very clear that the king of Babylon had an impending demise. And before it was over, Isaiah had brought clarity to the truth that pride leads to a great collapse. In the book of Isaiah, the prophet tells us in chapter 14, verses 12 and following, "How you are fallen from heaven, O shining star, son of the morning. You have been thrown down to the earth, you who destroyed the nations of the world. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's stars. I will preside on the mountain of the gods far away from the north. I will climb to the highest heavens and be like the Most High." Isaiah's death warning was so precise and direct that many theologians have believed that it must be a record of the fall of Satan, disguised in the Scriptures as a prophecy to the king of Babylon. Whatever its intended purpose, the message is clear. Pride is not to be a reality in the life of a God follower. Pride is listed among the 7 deadly sins. Scripture states that God hates pride. It is simple. God created human beings. He created us as companions, followers, worshipers, and friends. But pride makes us feel extremely independent from God, as if we do not need Him. And in the long run, pride destroys all of God's intentions for our lives. It is the heightened awareness of the freedom of choice without having wisdom of the limitations of the self. In other words, pride is having a good understanding of your power and authority as a human being without having an honest look at your own limitations or shortcomings. Pride solidifies our separation from God, and it only makes sense that a God who loves us would hate pride. In the 16th chapter of the book of Proverbs, the Scripture tells us, "Pride goes before destruction, and haughtiness before a fall." In the same chapter, the Proverbs also tell us, "The Lord despises pride. Be assured that the proud will be punished." In case you're beginning to forget about the grace of God, let me remind you that God created a way to conquer pride. The opposite of pride is humility, open dependence, and submission. God is leading and guiding people to a change of heart. And so if you are a person with a prideful heart, consider this passage. 1 Peter 5:5. God sets himself against the proud, but he shows favor to the humble.